now. So the presentation will be recorded and I will share the video on our YouTube channel. Welcome to the first meetup of AI Agent Montreal. It's a meetup for people curious about AI, and we'll try to talk about demystification of AI agents, and the tool and tech trends around it. And for this first meetup, we have the opportunity to have Arthur Magne. I will talk about a tool to see how to trust AI coding at scale with Packmind. So thanks to be with us, Arthur. Maybe we'll start by a little presentation. If you can tell to our attendees who you are.
Yeah. Thank you again, Nicolas, for the presentation. I'm really happy to be also the first one at this new meetup event. So I'm Arthur Magne. I'm the CTPO of Packmind and the co-founder. So we created Packmind 10 years ago. It came from a PhD study about technical debt management, software quality, and we worked a lot about developer productivity. And now, since 2 years, I think, how to improve the developer productivity using AI. So we work a lot with the AI agent, and we spoke a lot with the different companies about how the technical teams are using AI and if it's working or not for them, because as you may imagine, it's really different for different teams on the Docker usage. And I
Yes.
worked in Montreal for 1 year, I think 10 years ago. So yeah, that's good to see Montreal people.
Yes, because now Arthur is in France. Yeah, and I
Yeah, exactly.
follow Packmind since many years. The previous name was Promise, and it will be renamed Packmind. And I can't wait to see the new features. And maybe you will tell to our attendees now Packmind is open source.
Yeah, that's a really important point right now since 1 week. So it's pretty recent after 10
Yeah.
years. We finally pushed it open source. So it's free to use. And yeah, I will show you how it's working in this field of context engineering and how you can try it also for free. And if you like it or if you don't like it, like Jeff for Cursor, feel free to send me some feedback since it's pretty new and we really hope to have a lot of feedbacks for the developers and the team.
Yes, so today the main goal is to see how the tool Packmind can help people to capture and share collective knowledge inside a specific team. And feel free to, if you have some question, to just leave the question in the Q&A or the chat, sorry, the chat. I will try to answer along the presentation.
Yeah.
So you can start after the presentation.
Yeah, thank you again, Nicolas. So yeah, I won't talk only about Packmind. The first part of the presentation will be mainly about context engineering and how the team right now are using AI within their context. And we will jump into the Packmind presentation right away. But first, the first thing to understand is that right now, a lot of different companies, like GitHub, for example, but they are not the only one, just pushed a lot of marketing things about getting a lot of productivity increase when you are using AI, up to 50% productivity increase, etc. So you may have heard a lot of things about that. But in fact, you can see some new papers in this year about a lot of different companies saying that they are either getting no results or just a few percent of increase. And this is a report that's saying that there were more than 30 to 40 billion investment in AI for enterprise, and more than 95% of them are getting zero result. So that's
It's why
pretty bad.
because you have many billion inside the AI investment. It's why we have a little bubble and
Yeah,
uh,
totally. Totally. So there is a lot of different investment in AI right now, but yeah, how to get real productivity increase, that's another thing. And we will talk about it when we will talk about context engineering. But right now, when we speak about productivity, you can see sometimes that there is a huge difference between different companies. For example, AXA claim that they are getting at least 10% gain in productivity with AI. Company like Goldman says that they are about 20%. In our context, we generate more than 60% of the code with AI, so fully generated with AI. And companies like Anthropic say that more than 90 to 95% of their code base are generated with AI. But since we are talking about code generation with AI, it's not productivity at all. The real gain in productivity for the companies are more like this, between minus 15% to plus 15%. Even at Airbnb, at Google, at in the best companies in the world. So why do you have only this few percent gain with AI? There is a lot of different things that push those results. But the main thing is that first of all, all people who learn about AI just thought that with a small prompt, you can create a huge application. And you may have seen in LinkedIn, for example, some people saying that, yeah, in a few minutes, I build an application that took me 2 weeks to build normally, etc. It could be true, but only for real small project. When you try to use AI on big project with a big prompt, you see all the time that AI is building something that seems to work for a POC, just to present something to the people, etc. It's really great, but it's really not robust. So it's really not something that will that will keep on with the time. So it's something that you will have a lot of pain to maintain, etc. And the difference is that when we speak about AI, the first thing that came to mind is vibe coding. I think you may have heard this term vibe coding a lot. So vibe coding is just using some prompt to generate some code without taking a look at the code and refactor the code, etc. So it's just something for POC or for product manager, for example, or for people who want to try to present something to a client in a real application. But it's not something you can use in a real context, in a real enterprise. So for this to work, you need to use what is called context engineering. So context engineering right now is the new keyword you need to read about a lot. There is a lot of different articles, etc., about context engineering. But right now in 2025, it's the new key. Everyone is saying context is king. Why? Because with AI, you get garbage in, garbage out. If you pushed a lot of outdated documentation or bad code, legacy code, etc., you will get legacy code, you will get bad result, etc. But if you push a lot of good things about how to handle big architecture, how to handle error, how to write tests, etc. So a lot of context about your technical stuff, but also about your specification and also about your functional things, you will get really good results.
Just
So
Arthur,
yeah,
three things. The first, in the previous slide, AXA is an insurance company.
yeah.
Arthur, share because you talk about vibe coding. Share yesterday a video to see the difference between vibe coding and the context engineering. It's a 1 hour video, so feel free to see the video. And we have one question of Jan, because you talk about productivity gain, but maybe a silly question, but how do you measure this productivity?
So it's pretty hard. So if you just look at this slide, it's measured just by the number of line of code that has been generated by AI. So that's some stats you can have with GitHub Copilot or Cursor, for example. So you can see that in 100,000 line of code, you have 50,000 that has been generated by AI. But it's not productivity. When we talk about productivity, you can have many ways to measure it. I think the good one right now is coming from the DORA metrics. So DORA is a laboratory from Google, and yeah, you can talk about the four key metrics, etc. And so up, I was reading just right now the new report of 2025 about the usage of AI and the impact of AI in the enterprise in 2025. So yeah, this is a lot of different things, and you can measure it by the developer output, the number of pull requests generated, the number of value added by the company, etc. But it's more complex than just the number of line of code. So yeah, take a look at the new Dora report. It's really great. It's a really good. It's really something important to read right now because it's saying a lot of things about how companies are using AI. Yeah, I hope it answers the
I,
question, even if it's a bit complex.
yes, I extract a sentence from this report from a post on LinkedIn that the people share that AI coding assistant have a negative impact on software delivery is likely much higher, and can see all the detail why. For the time being, AI coding assistant have the negative impact, and tool like Packmind can help to increase the productivity.
Yeah, it will help because it's not just a magical tool, but it push context engineering for the team. So to get better results, you need context engineering, and you need also to get a better productivity to have an AI usage in the whole SDLC. So you need to use AI from the specification part in Miro, for example, or during example mapping, and with the ticketing, with the testing, with the deployment for your solution. So the code generation has never been the bottleneck for the engineering team. So it's not coding something that is a bottleneck for the team. It's the whole system and the whole delivery system. So if you just increase I think I speak about it just after, but yeah, if you just push more code, you will have more code review to get, and you will lost a lot of time during the code review. You will have more feedback, you will have more bugs, etc. So you won't get a better productivity. You will just get more code. So yeah, it's really important to increase the whole DLC.
And
So yeah,
just to complete, always in the Dora report, you can see that without tool like Packmind or standards, you can see that AI creates localized pockets of productivity that are often lost to downstream chaos.
yeah,
It's to
that's
summarize.
yeah, well summarized. Yeah, they took a lot of example of companies not using context, etc., and getting bad results and more comments in the pull request, etc. So that's exactly what I present here. So there is a huge difference between the low performer and the high performer, and the real thing is the context. So the low performer are just using, for example, GitHub Copilot right away without using GitHub Copilot instruction, without using custom prompt, etc. And the result is that the code generated is just really generic. So it's not aligned with the standard and the context of the team. So all the time you get in the code generation will be lost more with the rework and the low quality produced. So with a lot of different contexts, both technical and business, you will have really better result, but it's not enough. You need also to change the developer workflow. So we don't now spend the whole day just pushing code, but we need to use AI to generate the specification, to generate the testing system, etc. So it's more than just coding. It's a real engineering task. So Now we are engineer and we will do a real engineer work. So we will understand the need of the business. We will transform it into specification, into some documents also, etc. So it's really a more complex work for the developer right now with AI than without.
And
And
in
yeah,
your the video shared by Arthur yesterday, you can see that we call it spec-driven development.
yeah,
So you can see in detail this in the video also.
exactly. Yeah, you can use those both terms, so spec-driven development and context engineering. They are both really useful together. But yeah, if you need real gain in productivity with AI, you need to use both. And one good thing about the new usage of AI is software craftsmanship. We worked a lot on the software craftsmanship feed about the mentoring of the team, the new practices pushed within the team with test-driven development, hexagonal architecture, etc. And a lot of things about how to help the new developer using those new tools to get better outcome. And what is great is that some people just say that with AI, we don't need software craftsmanship, we don't need test or test-driven development, etc. And that's totally wrong. So right now, we need them more than ever because we will have more code generated by AI agents, and we can push those practices to AI agent. For example, within our team, we use GitHub Copilot, Claude, Cursor, Z. So we use almost everything as an AI agent, but all of them are using test-driven development. And they are following our standard about hexagonal architecture, clean architecture in the front end, a conventional commit, etc. So everything we implemented during the last years are now used by those AI agents. And when we try to use them without pushing this context and those workflows, it was really bad for us as a result because the generated code was not contained not test at all, I think, and it was really not what we wanted within the company. So yeah, that's really something good, I think, that with AI, companies working on software craftsmanship get better result than the other. And also, if we talk a bit about the Lean manifesto and the Lean movement, so with the Lean, you get a lot of different practices like the Dantotsu. I don't know if you are familiar with Dantotsu. It's a technique that is so the goal of this technique is that when you get a bug within your application, you need to find the root cause of this bug, create documents about why this bug has appeared and how to fix it and why it is important, etc. So you get a real capitalization on each bug. Root cause analysis. Yes, that's exactly that, but with a fancy term and a 12-step scenario, etc. So it's really complex. It's something that has been pushed by Toyota, for example. And that's something that the AI can use a lot. If at every bug you get, you create a document about how to not reproduce this bug again, this document can be shared with AI. And you can be sure that if the AI is generating some code, it won't get this bug again. So that's really important.
Just we have a
Yeah.
question of Jeff. Is there ways to simplify this AI onboarding? Because you talk about onboarding previously.
Yeah, exactly. And we will jump in directly. In fact, it's pretty hard when you start to use AI to push context to AI because the only way to do that with GitHub Copilot, for example, or Cursor or Claude, is to generate Claude.md file with a lot of markdown content about how to write some code for your context, etc. So first of all, it's hard to know what to tell to the AI and what not to tell. It's not good to push too much things, too many things, because the AI has a context window. And it's really important to push the good things in the good format also. So every AI tool like Claude, Copilot, or Cursor has their own standard and formalism for this content. So it can be pretty hard, even if you are using only one tool, but if you are using more than one tool, it will be harder. And if you are working on many repositories, it will be even harder because you will have to copy paste things, etc. That's where Packmind came in the game.
Good
So
transition.
yeah, thank you, Jeff. Good transition. So yeah, the idea of Packmind is just this one, to capture this knowledge and this context. So we will capture it mainly right now with MCP, with Model Context Protocol. So we will use Claude or Copilot, etc., to generate what we call the standard and the recipe within the project. And it can also capture this context from the merge request command, from your documentation, from everything you want. And then once those standards and recipes are centralized into Packmind, and it's really important that those standards are not centralized within one repository, because if you are working on many repositories, it will be pretty hard to maintain, to update, to copy paste, etc. So it's something that you can do without Packmind, but you need to create a new repository related to your standard, etc., outside of your main repository. And then you will need to copy paste it, etc. And the idea that once you have those standards, Packmind can help you to generate the instruction file for Copilot, Cursor, Claude, Windsurf, etc. in the good format. Because you will need to have a custom prompt, you will need to have instruction, workflows, etc. There is a lot of different things, and the idea is to generate the good thing. So here it's the UI of Packmind. It's
Yes,
something,
just
yeah,
Arthur, because maybe people don't know Packmind. Here is just the website part, but we have also an integration from the IDE, etc.
yeah, exactly. I will show the integration mainly with MCP right now, which is the pretty new thing that everyone want to use, and that's easiest way to create something right
And
now.
just if you
Yes.
can develop the concept of recipes, because I
Yeah,
understand it from the video of yesterday, but I think you can
exactly.
explain well.
Yeah, so in Packmind, you have two important things, the standard and the recipes. So the standard are the way you want the code to be generated. So it's your own standard within the code. You can have standard about React, about error handling, about security, about Java, about accessibility, design system, etc. For example, here we have a standard in our team about error handling, and we say that we are using GitHub, we are using Datadog, etc. With some code example. And the standard came with a set of rules. So each rule can have a code example with a do and don't example. And you have also the recipes. So the recipes are more context for AI agent for them to generate some code in the way you generated the code, but it's not only about the code. For example, we have a recipe about type ORM migration, database migration. So here you can see that it's about the command you need to launch to start the migration, some code example for the migration, and also a step-by-step workflow that the AI will use to generate this migration. So it's not only code, but you can say whatever you want. You can say code the GitHub MCP to generate a task in GitHub, for example, etc. So it's more complex. And as you can see, there is a lot of text in the recipe and in the standard. So the idea is that with Packmind, so once you install Packmind, you will have the way to configure your MCP server here. So you get this thing, so you configure the MCP. And once your MCP is configured within Claude, within Cursor or Copilot, you just need to say start Packmind onboarding. So I just pushed that. And then Copilot is telling me, okay, I will create the first standard for you. So it's really for the onboarding part. And it will say, okay, do you want me to create something about your code base analysis, your Git history analysis, so the last 30 commits, for example, or some web research? So you can say generate standard about accessibility or about security in React, etc. So here, for example, I just answered one about my code base. So it's telling me, okay, I see that you are using domain-driven design and clean architecture, of course. And I see that you are using API design pattern, etc. What do you want to create as standard? So I answered the number 9, API and design pattern. So I say, okay, great choice, always great choice, obviously. And then it will generate the standard based on our code base, etc. So you can use that to create standard about our code base, but you can also use everything you want, like an external link. For example, you have up GitHub repository, which is called Awesome Copilot. I don't know if you if you know this repository, Awesome Copilot. It's a repository owned by GitHub, and it contains a lot of instruction in for a lot of different languages. And for example, there is this instruction about how to migrate from Java 21 to 25. So I just copy this link, paste it here, and say, okay, create standard about this link. And then, as you can see up here, GitHub Copilot is calling Packmind through MCP. So MCP is like a REST API. It's just a way to communicate from Copilot to Packmind. So here it's saying, okay, I will send a lot of content, etc. And it generated up this standard, Java 25 to 21 to Java 25 upgrade standard, etc. And you have the code example, etc. So
Yes,
it's,
many,
yeah,
maybe you can focus on the example. I think it's important, the previous screen and with a bad and good example.
yeah, within Packmind. So this one,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, in fact, when you have a standard about Java migration, you have a set of different rules. So you can have a lot of different rules, in fact, with this kind of migration. And what is important is to have good example and bad example. It's really important because for AI agent, they will be able to see, okay, what is good, what is bad, etc. And also something I didn't mention because that's not in the open source part, but with Packmind, we also generate a linter rule for each rule you have here. So here from this rule, we will generate with AI a rule that will detect within the IDE if there is a violation for this standard. That's something up appearing like this one, line 64. You can see that Packmind is telling me use Datadog to log error because here I just have console.error, console.log, etc. But that's something different. But what is important is that it mixes deterministic result with the linter and non-deterministic with the instruction. And
Okay,
so
the
that's important.
detection is in the not free part, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's the only part which is in the not community part. It's linter. That's why I did not mention
But
it.
what you need to understand is the now Pacman is open source, so you can integrate in your team this part. You can use external rules like we can see with
Yeah,
this one, Java
yeah,
20 in Awesome Copilot source, but you can create your own rules from
yeah,
your team.
obviously. Obviously. And that's the main idea. It's all about context engineering. It's pushing your context, your technical context, etc., and your business context to GitHub Copilot or Cursor or Claude to be sure that they will provide some code that really follows your standard. And then you can be sure that you won't have a lot of feedbacks during each merge request, etc. And
And just now,
yeah,
you need to understand that we can use Packmind with AI agents or without. And now, if you can show how why Packmind can help AI agents, because we can also use Packmind without the part of AI agents, just by creating some rules, specific rules for your own team. And now you can.
you mean
Show
avec
us.
with the IDE extension, the IDE plugin, or
No, my
the
point is that you can use Packmind without AI agent,
yeah.
but the new features of Packmind is that you generate some
Yeah,
instructions
totally.
for all AI agents like
Yeah, totally.
Copilot, Cursor, etc.
So right now, we have the ability to generate some standard, etc., but that doesn't do anything right now. If you stop here, it doesn't do anything. So the idea is that with Packmind, you can connect your Git repositories, so your GitHub or GitLab repositories. So you connect your repositories like this, you select the repository you want to connect. And then with your standard and recipe, you say, okay, I want to select the standard for the front end, for example, about accessibility, design system, and React. And you click on this button to deploy them into one or many repositories. So here I will say, okay, deploy it to the Packmind Protomind demo. And within this repository, I have multiple targets, one for the front end, one for the back end. It's really important for the AI because, as I mentioned, they don't have a huge context window. So it's important to have the standard in the good part of the code. If it's a standard about the front end part, you can push it directly in the front end folder, and it will be better. And you can configure here for which agent you want to deploy the standard. So you can select Cloud Code, Juni, Copilot, etc. And some new are just coming each week because there is a lot of different agents. But the agent.md file right now, it's the one thing that unifies those AI agents. So with agent.md5, you normally cover a lot of different tools. But if you are using Copilot or Cursor, for example, it's better to generate the instruction for Copilot directly or Cursor directly because they will be in the Cursor rule folder, etc. And Cursor will follow them better than if it's in the agent.md file, even if they claim that it's compatible. The results are not the same. And
This
once,
is how we transform the rules in a instruction file for all the AI agents. But
yeah,
you have not mentioned if we use open source Packmind. The Packmind is us on premise or online?
yeah, you can do both. In fact, you have the cloud version where you just need to create an account. I think it is here. Use Packmind Cloud, so you have this link to use the free version in the cloud, and you have also the ability to host it directly with one line command. So it will use Docker, but with this command, it will launch Packmind within your local system in localhost, but you can use it with an nchart, etc., to deploy it on a server. But what is great is that even if only you within the team use Packmind locally, for example, when you click on deploy for a standard, it will create a commit for the repository you selected, like this one, and it will say, okay, Packmind, update standard file, etc. And it will generate the instruction and the rule for the different tools you are using. So for example, it generated here some cursor rules, some GitHub Copilot instruction, some standard, and it updated the cloud.md file, etc. And the idea that if someone within the team, for example, update a standard, so if I say, okay, now remember that you need to use SQLite instead of that, etc., it will update the standard or the recipe. And then from Packmind, from the dashboard, you can see that, for example, in this repository, we are using this recipe about typo error migration, but it has been deployed in version 2, and right now in Packmind, it's in version 3. So it's outdated and you can update it directly. So if I click update, it will push an update for this standard within my repository. And that's why it's important to have this scaling part within your repositories of standard, etc. That it's really hard to maintain if you just use a markdown file in some specific repository. So they need to be centralized and you need to have this governance over them to validate the new changes, etc. So here you can see the diff and say, okay, that's good, I will deploy it, or no, I keep on this version.
I have a specific question about that because
Yeah.
I saw your video yesterday. Can we show the version of the standard recipes used when we commit something? Because I see that only the backend side knows the version deployed on each project, and also if an update is available. So if you made a commit with version 2, and we have the version 3. Can we see this in the commit or not?
Within the commit, you can see, I don't know where it has been created, but in fact, I'm not pretty sure. I think that's something we had it, but we removed it because maybe it wasn't something important. But yeah, within the instruction, it's possible, for example, to add the version for us. But yeah, I know that we had it, but we removed it because we say, okay, that's just related to maybe one commit at this time, etc. But like you said, maybe the standard has changed. So within the new commit, it has been different, etc. That's why
Yes.
you mentioned that. Yeah. But right now, what is important is that since we deploy the standard within the code, what is great is that Copilot or Cursor, etc., we use them without us as a developer having to ask them to use them. So here is an example where I just had Copilot to add some error for a service file. And you can see that it's telling me that now I need to read the error handling standard to understand the specific pattern and requirement for error handling in this project. It's pretty verbose, but who cares? What is important is that, yeah, each time you just ask it to do something. For example, here I say, okay, add a database colon, so make a database migration is first of all reading the standard, and then is taking a look at if there is some recipe within our list within Packmind, and he's saying that okay, now I will check if there is a recipe, and there is a recipe typo error migration, the one I just presented before. So what is interesting is that there is a huge link between the recipe and the standard. It's important to have a recipe about how to do something. So you need to do that in a 3 or 5 step, and how the code should be generated. And that's the standard. So with that, the next thing you need to do to gain really in productivity, and that thing is not with, I think it's here. This thing is not with Packmind itself, but it's more in the webinar I've done last week that you mentioned, Nicola. You can use AI to help you with the functional specification, with the technical specification, etc. So you need to use your own workflow, or using a tool like Kiro, for example, will help you to have this step of planning something, then creating a plan for the architecture, and then generating the code. So you can use AI not just to generate the code, but to help you with the functional specification, etc. So in our case, for example, we created those files: functional specification, technical specification. So they are a huge prompt for Copilot or every AI agent, and they will take as an input a user story, and they will generate a plan, a specification plan, and then a technical plan about how to handle this user story, etc. So that's the business part, that you push context for the business with within your AI agent. And then what is great is that the generated code will follow your standard, and also your recipe, so you can be sure that the result is something that you may have generated yourself if you have written this code yourself. So yeah, if you want to gain really in productivity, that's not something really easy, but that could be not that hard if you are using some tool like Packmind, and if you already use some existing prompt like this one. I can share you those files if you want. For example, you can use Kiro also, that use the same kind of thing. Cursor just created this plan step last week, so it's pretty new. And the Copilot is releasing it in 1 week or two, so that in fact, all those tools will converge. And you will see maybe in a few months that all those tools will contain those plan section, spec section, etc. So you will have more spec-driven development, and you will have more context engineering. So you will have other ways to push context for those tools, etc.
Just Arthur,
Yeah.
you have created the MD file for the for the Jira ticket, for example, for the issue. Just I don't understand where the file are stored. Is in all the project, or for each project you download the file? Uh,
Yeah, in this case, so with Packmind, what is great is that you have the standards that are centralized and you push it and deploy it for every project. But yeah, with those files about functional specification, technical specification, etc., that's something we just created within our own mono repository because we only have one repository. But for example, that's something we should have written with the recipe in Packmind. For example, because we just tried it, so everyone within the team tried those things. But now that we used it a lot and we saw that it was great, we can transform them into recipe within Packmind. And for that, we just need to copy paste it into Packmind. And then if we use multiple repositories, we can just push them into the repositories. And yes, just right after, we can, for example, if I have some recipe with up with Packmind right there, I can, I think, yeah, use them with that by saying, okay, typo error migration in Packmind, and I can write whatever I want. So you can do that or not if you want Copilot to find it itself. But yeah, that's exactly the use case of those workflows is to have this huge context for AI agent and then to use them between different agents and between different provider and repositories.
okay, so you are able to just execute the recipes in each project, and it will build all the four files of instruction that we have seen for the
Yeah,
user
exactly.
story. Okay.
Exactly. But since the recipes are mainly pushed into the repository, it's good to validate them locally before. And right now, when we use Packmind to generate some standard and recipes, etc., what it's doing is that yeah, it will generate some draft files. So when you ask Packmind to generate some new standard, it will tell you, okay, I generated this draft in Markdown. Are you agree with that? If you want to make some changes, you just need to ask Copilot to make some changes. Otherwise, you say, okay, that's okay, and that push this file within Packmind. But before, we were just pushing them directly, and that's something we got from a lot of different feedback from people saying, okay, that could be great to review, in fact, the standard before validating it, because then it's validated also in Packmind, but it could be great to validate it within your IDE before pushing it. So that's the kind of feedback we hope to have. So if you are able to try Packmind, it will be also great to have your feedback on the tool. I see that the time is is coming to an end. So yeah, if you have any question about either about Packmind, but also about context engineering, about everything else, feel free to ask them.
I have some question, but if you have some question, don't hesitate to leave your question in the
Yeah.
chat.
Maybe you can also speak
Okay.
if you are able to.
I will maybe I have two questions.
Yeah.
Just we have an inherent risk of context engineering for junior developers. I write because we focus on the input instead of the output, we increase spec-driven development skills, and we don't have the opportunity to increase the technical implementation in the daily work. What do you think about that, Arthur?
Um, that's really a good question. How to keep on increasing the skills of the people within the team with AI? Like it's pretty hard because in one way we still have a lot of code reviews. So code reviews are really great to increase, etc. But yeah, you need to practice to get a lot of different skills. So some companies are using what they call no AI days. So, for example, each week you get one day without AI. So everyone is coming back to the code, and I think that could be a good idea to make some hackathons or some no AI days, etc. But also some companies for junior developers are forcing them to not use AI within their work. But I don't know if it's really a good idea. It's good as a training to increase the skills, etc. But it's moving so fast that I'm not sure that within 1 year, for example, it will be really important to have all the skills we have right now for how to use a custom library in the code, etc. It will be better to have a better understanding on the architecture, on the testing, on the deployment, on the
Software
design system, etc.
craftsmanship also, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That within
Mm.
some really specific. I know if you are really a Java champion for Java 21, etc. Maybe you will have to to change your skill to be better at architecture or review, etc. But yeah, that's something moving so fast. I don't know, Jeff, Jan, Dave. I mean, if you are thinking the same way, feel free to also answer. But yeah, that's my main.
Thanks for the response. Jan asked a question, but in the let's say my pull request don't respect the standard, what will happen? It will do like pipeline, it will stop the merge.
So yeah, that's a good question. In fact, uh, up- in fact, what it's doing is that you will have this validation with the agent generating the code. Then, if you are using some AI agent for the code review part, like GitHub Copilot, it will also use your instruction for GitHub Copilot. So you will have these two ways of validating this. But yeah, it will stop there. And then, if you want Packmind to stop the merge and stop the CI, you will need to use the linter part. And with the linter, you will have a pre-commit hook. You will have the ability to have the view within your IDE. And within the CI, like Sonar, like SonarLint or ESLint, etc., you can just launch Packmind. It will check if the code follows your standard. And if not, you can break everything.
So in the open source part, you have a non-blocking gating. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's the difference. With the commercial part, you have these blocking security things that you don't have within the open source.
Yeah.
Right.
I have also another question. I know that in previous version of Packmind, we have some workshops. It still exists in the new features because we need to discuss about rules or update the rules inside the team. Uh, could you?
That's an hard question because I don't like the answer. In fact, and since we are in the software crafters Montreal, I don't like the answer. In fact, we worked a lot about software craftsmanship and how to communicate within the team, how to create a workshop to discuss about best coding practices, etc. for many years. And the result is that within the different teams and the company, only a few percent of the developer really care about the quality and about the best coding practices, etc. And it was really hard to understand because I wanted to be different. I wanted it to be really different. And since the result are that only a few percent of the people, the staff engineers, the technical leaders, the architect, really cared about how to push best coding practices, etc. We changed the way the practices were validated, etc. So right now, it's easier to just create a practice. The standard is here, and you just need to deploy it. It will be deployed within the team. So you can still discuss with the team, for example, about the new versions that have been created, etc. You can discuss about the diff with the team. But before that, we had those workshops where you can vote, you can discuss, you can
Yeah.
add some battles, you can add some arguments against or for those standards. And right now, since it wasn't really a huge thing for the company, we just said, okay, it will be easier. We will just have those standards. You can discuss about them if you want, but you
If you
just need to.
want, but outside the Packmind. Okay, we're
Yeah.
removing the feature. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a question of Ming because we have
Yeah.
just 5 minutes before
Yeah.
remaining. The problem with junior staff on AI tool, at least from what I see in my team, is that they are overwhelmed by amount of code generated by AI tools. Eventually, the module does not work as expected. Large set of code are already created, and it's even more difficult for them work now. General challenge for junior staff is not just writing code, but actually reading code error
Yeah,
analysis.
I
Yeah.
really like that. Thank you, Ming.
Thanks,
Yeah, in
Ming.
fact, there is a code ownership issue because it's not really your code if it's generated by AI, and you get, like you said, a lot of code every day if you are using AI, and you don't have the time to review all the code, to spend the time to make some changes, make some reworks, etc. And yeah, since it's not your code, it's pretty hard to modify it, to make some reworks, etc. And since the AI is getting really fast, so in a few minutes you have hundreds of lines of code, it's really hard for you to say, okay, uh, the code just generated 100 lines of code for me in a few minutes, and I will spend 3 hours debugging this code, reviewing it, adding some tests, etc. You just feel not productive at all. You just say, okay, maybe someone else within the team will just validate this code and push it, and I will be the one within the team which is the the slowest. And yeah, that's really hard because I think it's really important for human to still review the code, validate the code, etc. And since I think with the time we will review less code, we will use AI for those code reviews, etc. We will need better context and better input. In fact, the new work I think for the developers in 1 or 2 years will be really about handling the good input, etc., and creating a big machine to generate good code, to generate something really good for the production. But yeah, and also it's not right for every company. So if you are working on a huge banking system with a lot of legacy code, etc., maybe AI is not the good thing that will help you within your job. It's so complex that we will still need a lot of people understanding the code, etc. But AI will just help you during this journey.
But the software craftsmanship principle still remain valid because we need to work in small batches and also apply, or like you said, for the input, we are low ambiguity in the specification and so on.
Yeah, totally.
We have just 2 minutes before ending. I have a last question, but I think we have answer. It's the custom rules lifecycle in Packmind, create, delete, update for the rules, still in human control, or can be or should be delegated also to the AI agent, or it will remain in human control.
Yeah, for us, it's still in human control. In fact, the practices, the standard and recipe validation uh, should be in human control. So you can use AI to generate the content because no one wants to create 100 lines of how to do this or that, etc. It's pretty hard to start from a blank page, but it's pretty easy as a developer to review this and to say, okay, is it good? Yes, yes. Oh no, there is a mistake here. You should not run this exactly, etc. So it's pretty easier to update. It's like a code review, but for your standard or your input. So yes, that's something I think should stay. That should stay in human control. And for the validation of each update, it's the same. we have an update, we need to review the update. That's why we don't push it directly. We could push everything directly if there is something new, but we said, okay, no, it's great to have this step of validation before pushing it to the repositories.
Okay, thank you, Arthur, for the answer, and the human still remaining in the course.
That's
So
important.
thank you so much, everyone. I will share all links about Packmind and maybe all source of good practices also. If you want to share other link about Packmind, Arthur, don't hesitate to share with me, and I
Yeah.
will share on our YouTube channel the video. Just a little reminder: we have on November 12 November another meetup with Steven Diamante. We'll see a software craftsmanship for coding agents and how taming the dragon. So thank you so much, and see you soon in the next meetup. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.